So welcome, thanks for joining us today. Now we've got two really big guests from the EV space in New Zealand. Joining us we have Ewan, the Managing Director of ABB New Zealand, and Dean Sheed, who's pretty well known around the place, the General Manager of Audi New Zealand. Now, we're at Giltrap Audi, one of the first places in the country with one of ABB's new 175 kilowatt chargers in place. That must be pretty exciting.
Oh, look, it is from an Audi viewpoint. It's great for the business and it's great for our customers, and we're very fortunate that we can bring such technology to the marketplace for the benefit of everyone.
Mm-hmm. And for you, Ewan, it's great to see this technology in the field.
It is. It's really a pleasure to work with Audi, and it's exciting for ABB. These are some of the highest power chargers installed in New Zealand. They utilise higher output powers and voltages to be able to charge these cars with large battery capacities in a reasonable time, and so it's really exciting for ABB to bring this technology to New Zealand and work with Audi.
And Dean, from a dealership perspective, it must be pretty critical to have this kind of infrastructure in place. Now we've got a high volume of EVs being sold with bigger and bigger batteries.
Oh, look, it is, and I think of some of the meetings I had with Ewan probably 2 years ago, where we looked into the future and said, well, we could actually put some installations in that would do the job for today. And they were sort of lower level 22, 25 capacity chargers. We said no, actually we'll put in 50 kilowatt fast chargers actually as a standard, and 2 years ago that was the national fast charge standard. And then we tossed around the idea of future-proofing our businesses by taking ABB's leading 175 kilowatt DC chargers. And so we looked at that scenario, and then we came out, and I'm now very pleased to say we have a number of them being installed around the country. So it was a great opportunity, and it's about future-proofing the business.
Just give a few details about how many are going around the country. Most of a large number of your dealers will have these units.
Yeah, so we have every dealership in the country with a 50 kilowatt DC charger, which is known as the country's fast charger. Our first installation was in Christchurch, so Archibald's Audi in Ewan Street there has a 175 kilowatt charger. The second one is here in Auckland, so downtown Auckland. I understand it's the highest capacity DC charger in Auckland City. And then the third one will be in Tauranga, the Farmer Audi Motor Group.
I saw some photos online of that one the other day. I think there's a few EV enthusiasts out there pretty excited about the installation down there.
Oh, look, we just have to get better charging around the country, and we need to make it seamless for consumers, and then we'll just knock down some of those barriers, and that's why it's good to work with ABB, because they have the global technology and we're localising it really.
And I guess to that, Ewan, we touched a little bit earlier on the technology behind the unit that's here, but how advanced are these units? And I guess in general, how advanced is the charging technology ABB is bringing to New Zealand?
Yeah, these 175 kilowatt chargers, they're quite unique because they have a modular power electronics design and building block. So it means that customers can, if they want to increase the charging power at a later date as the demands go up, they can do that in a scalable way. So they can just add more units, and so that gives customers like Audi flexibility to expand the charging capacity as the demand grows over time. Furthermore, all of the ABB's chargers are smart chargers, so they use open communications protocol, and what that means is that allows demand response functionality to be used. So what that means is that as the demand increases, so the electricity distribution companies, for example, can manage these peak loads to mitigate peaks and to ensure that the network remains stable. So that's a key part that this smart charging functionality allows for.
And I know, Dean, Audi have spent quite a bit of time with their customers working on that process of making sure that the grid and houses can take these vehicles and how they're installed. And you guys have done some work around checking out this house as well, haven't you?
Yeah, look, if you go back to the data says around 80% of consumer charging will be done domestically, and 20% clearly publicly or in a workspace. So we have to get both solutions sorted, and that's why we were very pleased to work with ABB and some other partners and coming together for a home installation check. What I would call third generation EVs, they can take up to 32 amps in terms of charge. That's at least half what a normal Kiwi house has coming into it from the pole out on the roadside. So you've got to be pretty sure that you've got a system robust enough to to actually allow charging to happen and everything else to happen within the home at the same time. Otherwise, you've got some issues. So we've got a nice little process that's been WorkSafe approved, and we've got an installation partner nationally that can sort that out for our consumers. And then we've got on the consumer side, that's sorted, and then on the business side, we've got this heavy unit in terms of the DC charging sorted as well.
Fantastic. Now, Audi's got a pretty big mission statement regarding an emissions-free environment, and I know there's been discussion recently of an end to internal combustion engine development for Audi. What does that mean? And what does that mean for Audi New Zealand?
Yeah, well, if I take you back to a sort of a corporate view, our corporate view is that we've signed up to the Paris Accord, and we want to be carbon neutral by 2050 as a business. So if that's the end game that our business is signed up to, then we've got a whole lot of projects underway at the moment. The thing that the customer sees is the physical vehicle, but there's a whole plethora of other activities around that to prove our sustainability focus. So we have projects going on right across the company globally. As an example, where e-tron is produced, it was Audi's first carbon neutral assembly plant, which is in Brussels. We've just launched just at Christmas our second plant, which is carbon neutral, which is in Hungary, and we have another 3 major assembly plants to go, and then the assembly plants are all carbon neutral for Audi. That's just the first part, and then we've got a whole wide range of vehicles, which will obviously be full e-mobility cars, so full battery electric vehicles, replacing the ICE cars. In terms of a date when we stop producing ICE cars, I haven't seen any date actually put in. I think I'll leave that to the politicians to work out, 2030, 2035, 2040. You've got to be able to get these big organisations with the product and the distribution sorted to meet some of those targets. You don't do it overnight.
And from projects like these chargers, ABB is helping Audi meet that mission, I guess?
Absolutely, yeah. I think what Dean is doing here locally is absolutely going in the right direction, and what's been impressive working with Audi is that these guys also have really done their homework well in advance and are rolling this out in a very systematic way, so kudos to Audi.
And I guess in the broader sense, more electric vehicles on the road means more infrastructure requirements. And what does New Zealand need to take these cars?
It's an important point. Look, as a country, we need to ensure that our homes, our offices, our commercial buildings are EV ready and equipped, and that we provision for the uptake of EVs and to be able to charge those. So we need to be looking at things like changing the building code to ensure that all new builds are equipped with EV chargers. And one of the main reasons it's much more cost effective to install a charger with a new build than to go back and retrofit that later. And if you look at that over, let's say, a decade, then we can be saving the country hundreds of millions of dollars if we just do something like changing the building code. So that's a really important point. Another thing we need to do is also keep on investing in the number of DC chargers, fast chargers around the country. So I think we've got a good geographical coverage across the country now, but many of these chargers are single units. So as the number of cars increase, if we want to avoid queuing and long waiting times, we need to be increasing the number of these fast chargers at these key locations. So, we've made a good start as a country, but we need to keep that momentum going.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting from my own experience. One of my favourite chargers around the country is the new ABB unit out at Telpru, I think, which of course has multiple options, including AC on it. It's great to see that kind of unit being put in around the country. Yeah. Now, Dean, what will Audi need from ABB as this rollout continues? You've got one electric model now, you're going to have 2 soon and then 3, and it's going to carry on pretty quick.
Look, we do. We have a whole family. So if your future view is that you're going to be fully EV focused, you're going to have a model range which turns from ICE to EV. You need the infrastructure to support that. You need some global technology, and then have that localised, and that's where the partnership with ABB has put us in good stead. So we have a pathway, we have a rollout plan. Time's just got to go, and then we've got to get all these new vehicles into the country and educate consumers, make it easy for them, and tear down some of those existing barriers. And that's why by having smart charging that Ewan's alluded to, fantastic home energy management systems. So, the car starts talking to the home through the charging system, and then it works out and alleviates any of those peaks and troughs that we've been talking about. So we need to keep an eye on the future and use the best of technology.
And I guess as the car guy, if I can prod you, we've got the e-tron now, the e-tron GT's coming.
Yes.
We've got the Q4 after that. I mean, what should we be excited about? What should we be looking forward to plugging into an ABB charger in a few years' time?
Oh, look, there's a whole raft of cars. We've got a very strong SUV focus, so there will be more SUVs clearly, but we're also a very sporty brand and a very progressive brand, so we'll have sports cars that just happen to be electric. Our philosophy is to build the right car for the consumer that just happens to be electric, and that also works for our sustainability goals.
And you're excited to see some of these products here?
Absolutely. I mean, these cars coming out are really impressive, and you see more and more of them on the road. So it's an exciting time.
Fantastic. Look, thank you so much for joining us. That's Ewan Morris from ABB New Zealand and Dean Sheed from Audi New Zealand. Don't forget to like and subscribe to us to get more great content from Auto Media Group.